Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. So, in this video, I pulled up a article from Seeking Alpha. I will leave it in the description down below so you guys could check it out. Just a disclaimer before I get the video started: I'm no stock expert, I'm no financial expert, so don't go and say anything or do anything, any stock moves, sell, trade, whatever, based on what I say. Just keep that in mind before I get this video started. So the horizon for Verizon. So just a few key summary points. The stock fell to a nearly 12-year low. Churn is at a multi-year high. Remember, keep that in mind. However, Verizon holds industry-leading position in every subscriber segment, as well as the industry's highest average revenue per user. So I wanted to talk about that, right? So I did not anticipate Verizon making any huge changes in the fourth quarter. Why? Because at the third quarter earnings, they told us they would continue taking losses in the fourth quarter, and they don't see a turnaround until at least the first quarter of 2023. Now, when Verizon says losses, what does that mean, right? A lot of people are asking me, does that mean that they're not growing at all? No. So what that means is when they say they anticipate losses, that means that they are losing more customers than they are gaining. So there's still going to be growth. There's still people that are going to Verizon, that are joining Verizon, but more customers are leaving than they are getting. And that's why I told you guys to keep in mind that the second bullet's in there. Churn is at a multi-year high. Churn is high. Customers are leaving Verizon at a very, very high clip. For Verizon to be able to have the industry-leading position in every subscriber segment is a big deal. And the fact that they have the highest ARPU is also a big deal. But as those customers keep shedding and they don't no longer pay Verizon monthly, that's going to be a problem for Verizon. It's going to be a problem. And that's why I keep saying, if you look at the numbers, if you look at the projections, they're on the downtrend for Verizon in a big way. They've made some moves for the fourth quarter. Right, we're getting closer to that holiday, the peak holiday for Christmas. And like I said in those videos, they made some decent aggressive moves, but there's still more needed. That's why I keep saying a step in the right direction. Ultimately, I think the final step is going to have to be a price drop and become more like a T-Mobile. That's what I think is needed, because T-Mobile is getting better each and every quarter on its marketing, on its network, on the fixed wireless access, and that's hurting Verizon. So you can't look at it in a short-term view. You can't just say, oh, it's going to turn around in this amount of time. You got to look at the bigger picture. So if the losses keep happening, right, which so far for Verizon, the entire 3 quarters this year, they took losses. They're anticipated to take loss in the fourth quarter. And there is no momentum or change in sight that would lead us to believe that next year is going to be any different. Unless, from what I'm hearing, there are some changes coming for Q1 2023, unless they start implementing, like I said, a bit of a lower price, which is going to hurt their ARPU, but may retain customers, and it may get them new customers. So I would take that. In my opinion, if I had to lower price and it would lower my churn and help me grow versus losing customers, I would take that any day of the week. And that's what Verizon's team has to start looking at. I'm telling you, I've seen the plans. T-Mobile is going to get competitively better. I'm not saying T-Mobile is going to have the biggest, robust network, but they're going to have such a competitive network. And if you couple that with their messaging, their story, their marketing, they're gonna take share in those rural parts. And if you look at the numbers, they already are. And that's the problem. Verizon hasn't pivoted yet. Each and every year, that goes by, T-Mobile's perception is changing, right? 2021, T-Mobile's perception changed a little bit. 2022, T-Mobile's perception changes, right? And I'm speaking like of a large scale. If you look at some of these crowdsourced data points that are out there, it's still not a very huge sample size. I saw the recent one that came out, and it was like 40,000 people. That's not enough. We have millions of people out there where I know I've heard it. Hey, T-Mobile's getting better. I see it in the comment section. Whereas before, all I got was T-Mobile's bad. Now the perception is slowly but surely changing in T-Mobile's favor, and Verizon has to deal with that. They have to look at that. They have to go into these meetings and they have to say, look, this is how we're currently positioned. But looking at it into the future, we can see, hey, look, guys, T-Mobile's perception is changing. They're moving into these markets. They are priced lower. Current inflation, current economy, people are leaving us. They have to start taking that into consideration. They can't just sit there and say, well, we have the premium network, they'll be back. It hasn't worked. Like I said, root metrics for the second half of 2022, per the scientific testing, they are still showing, per the reports, Verizon has the most and best network in the metro core. It is ranked number one, probably in this second half, the most number one awards that they've ever gotten, or at least the discrepancy against the competition is wider than it's probably ever been. And still Verizon is losing customers. And I'm not, again, I just point that out. A lot of you are posting your individual anecdotal experiences. Verizon's slow here. Verizon's slow at the store. I speak from a national standpoint. That's every single market in the United States that's being tested, and it shows Verizon to come out ahead. Even in your area, if you're, for example, I looked at that the other day. If you are in Chicago, for example, right? T-Mobile just tied Verizon in Chicago. I looked at the area that RootMetric tested. There's no way in hell one person can cover that. That's in that landscape, and that was suburban areas too. During the period tested, RootMetrics drove 5,000 miles. 5,000. That would get me, just to put that in perspective, that would get me from El Paso to New York and back. 5,000 miles they've driven across the entire Chicago area, including suburban and other cities. That is a large landscape tested, right? And Verizon still tied T-Mobile, where T-Mobile has far more 2.5 at scale. So just keep that in mind. I know your individual experiences may be different, but if you look at the testing, if you look at the speed, Verizon is not far off without having C-band at the scale of 2.5. So I still stand by my opinion. The network is not the problem. It's Verizon's perception, it's the brand, it's the pricing, it's many other things. I just can't believe that the network is the problem, right? At scale. It might be a problem for you, but I'm talking at large scale. I just think people are churning and leaving because they're seeking a cheaper cost and a better deal. So make sure you guys stay tuned to the channel. Like, share, subscribe, follow my social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Life, and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.